Hello, everyone. We are Team Dried, which stands for Dryer to Reduced Instances of Extraterrestrial Delivery. This semester, we focused on modifying a small commercial dryer for operation in space. The team consisted of myself, Natalie Ozor, as well as Daniel Weber, Aleka Neptune, and Anna Blome. So the driving need behind this project is logistics reduction. Because there is no laundry system in space, astronauts have to pack and transport lots of clothes. Another issue we are facing is the dryer itself. Dryers take up a lot of room and consume a lot of power. On top of all of this, we were asked to modify for multiple gravitational conditions: orbit, the moon, and Mars. So to summarize, the purpose of this project is to modify an existing compact dryer to operate in 0, 1/6, and 1/3 gravity.
These are our requirements and constraints. They come from a mix of project requirements as set forth by TSGC, our sponsor interview, and NASA standards for human spaceflight. They represent a combination of functionality, geometry, safety, and project cost requirements. So the first step after determining our requirements was to find a suitable example dryer to modify. We have represented here 3 categories of dryers. The Magic Chef and Panda are small compact dryers. The Vivome is a mid-range dryer, and the Samsung is a full-size household dryer. So we ranked them based on the criteria cost, efficiency, mass, and volume. Cost was our most important metric because of our project budget of $500. Volume and mass were next most important because from our research, we found that it would be easier to make a small dryer efficient than to make an efficient dryer small. Because of these reasons, we chose the Magic Chef compact dryer. However, we did end up implementing some functions we found in the other dryers, such as the heat pump system found in the Samsung dryer. Next, we have our function tree diagram, which shows the main purpose of our dryer to dry clothes in various gravity environments, and the 8 main functions required to do this task. Because we are modifying an existing dryer, we focused our design efforts on 3 functions to first allow the dryer to function in space, and second, make it more efficient. The functions we focused on were collect lint, tumble clothes, and evaporate water. The other 5 functions were either already operational in the existing dryer, or many spacecraft have a system to already accomplish this function, as is the case with the remove humidity function.
For patent searches, we focused on 3 main avenues: lint traps, dryer dividers, and heat pumps. We focused in on these 3 areas because we really saw them as our main areas for ingenuity and wanted to make sure we weren't infringing on any other patents. For lint traps, we focused on lint traps that were geared towards repeat usage in self-contained spaces. For dryer dividers, we focused on dividers that seemed to have an adequate division of space and that still allowed for air circulation. And for heat pumps, we focused on heat pumps that were specific to usage in dryers.
As mentioned, one of the functions that we focused on was to collect lint. The goal being to reduce the dispersion of lint particles into cabin space because lint is a fire hazard. And the challenge here is that there's no gravity to pull the lint into a trash can when the user scrapes or peels the lint off the screen. So one of the solutions that we looked at was a disposable fabric packet. This would involve an initial layer of fabric over the air vent that would collect the lint, and then the application of a second fabric layer with a sticky border that would attach to the initial layer and enclose the lint in a packet shape. However, after some quick analysis, we realized that this was not cost effective and resulted in significant waste. So instead, we propose a modified cleaning procedure and a flexible roll-up screen. So instead, the user would initially or immediately vacuum the lint off the screen, or they would roll up the screen and transport it to a designated vacuum space.
So for the function of tumbling the clothes, we ended up deciding that some sort of dryer divider would be our best path forward. After 2 rounds of idea generation, we were able to narrow it down to what we viewed as our best option, which you can see to the left. This is our fan divider. It's composed of 4 vented fans that are attached to a motorized central dowel. In terms of function, these fins section off the drum and allow us to have compartments where clothes can be slotted in. And because of that motor, this whole system does revolve, so it adds an element of mechanical rotation. Now, to help prove that this was really the design we wanted to go with, we did some flow simulations. So you can see the image to the left, which is of our zero-G environment. And the great thing about the revolution of the system is that it interrupts our initial airflow. So you see the airflow going to more parts of the drum compared to some of our other designs, which where sort of only went to the top and the bottom. And again, because of this revolution, our flow patterns are a lot more chaotic. You can see some sort of kind of donut-shaped airflow patterns. And another major reason why we went with this one was because we didn't see any major variations between the different gravitational environments in terms of airflow.
So the previous two functions have been focused on making the dryer work in space. With the evaporate water function, we focused on making the dryer more efficient. We compared two main modes of dryer heating, resistive heating versus a heat pump system, and found that a heat pump system would be much more efficient. We also compared two different sources for the heat pump to pull heat from: the air in the room surrounding the dryer versus the heat removal system found on the ISS. In the end, we ended up using an air source heat pump system that pulled air directly from the room surrounding it, and found that that had a coefficient of performance of 5.99. So it was 5.99 times more efficient than a resistive heating element. We spec'd out a system that had similar characteristics and found that with our system, we could generate 50% more heat within the dryer while using 70% less power. The final change we made was to include a moisture sensor within the drum of the dryer to sense when the clothes were dry and stop the dryer to prevent excess power usage. One other change we made was the addition of insulation around every wall of the dryer. The thought behind this was to prevent excess heat loss through the walls of the dryer. We ended up using a 1/4 inch thick rubber sheet as our insulation, after comparing it to a 3/4 inch rubber sheet and vacuum insulation, and finding that those were both too large to fit within our existing dryer. We found that this added insulation would reduce the capacity for heat loss through the walls by about 91%.
We were also interested in modeling the dryness of the clothes as a function of time, and confirming the company's specs of 30 minutes to dry 1 pound of clothes. So we soaked a load of clothes and run it out to simulate damp clothes coming out of a washer, and then loaded the dryer and ran it. We measured the mass of the clothes at various intervals and found a linear relationship between the mass and the time that did confirm the company's prediction. This is our final dryer design. On the left is our bill of materials, listing the components for the modifications that we made, including the dryer divider, lint collection, and heat pump. And on the right is a 3D model of our final design.
So here is an example of a minimally functional prototype where it's placed inside of the drum. This does only have 3 fins, and that's due to some constraints within because of the shape of the drum of the Magic Chef.
And this is the dryer with our team patch that we designed at the beginning of the semester.
So these are our recommendations for future work. We think it would be interesting to explore a variable airflow model, which would also tie into our next idea for future work, which would be to compare the amount of heat that is lost to air leaving the dryer versus the heat that is lost through the walls of the dryer. We also think it would be interesting to design a custom heat pump compressor that would better fit within the geometry of the existing dryer.
So in conclusion, we determined that it is actually feasible to modify an existing compact dryer for operation in space with the purpose of reducing cost and logistical challenges. We determined that the dryer would save 120 kilograms of clothing over the course of a 4-year Mars mission, which equates to roughly $6.5 million in terms of fuel saved. These are the references we used during our research, and these are the image and part sources that you've seen during our presentation. Thank you very much for watching.